Okay. For, can you guys see me? Just want to make sure that I'm seen and wondering if you guys can hear me. I'm just waiting to see if anybody's here and how I know that. I'm going to text my group here. I don't see anybody, so I don't know if anyone can see me. I see one person's watching. Jordan, yes, hey! Okay, good, one person's there. Now I see three. All right, people are coming on. Wow, I'm going to wait just a couple minutes. Thank you for joining. Wow, this is strange, but I am very grateful that I have the chance to be here and talk to everybody today. How is everybody? How's everybody out there in Facebook land? Hoping that everybody's doing well and that you're taking it one day at a time like the rest of us. I have some herbal tea here that I'm going to drink. So today we're going to get started because I know we're all so busy, quote, quote, quote. And I gave a lot of thought to this topic about Chinese dietary recommendations to build immunity. And specifically what I want to talk about today is dietary considerations for the lung. As we know, the lung is the organ that is most involved in the COVID virus, and so whatever we can do to protect our lung is so important. So first of all, what I'd love for everybody to do is take a deep breath, and everybody just close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and release. And let's take one more deep breath in together and just feel that breath going into your lungs. Feels good to breathe. So I want to talk to you about some principles in Chinese medicine before we actually talk about the lung. First of all, as you know, that Chinese medicine is a whole body medicine. We always look at the whole body. We don't isolate one aspect of our organs from the other. All the organs work together in harmony to allow our body to operate. Just seeing how off balance I am. The second thing is that every organ has qi energy. And that's really what the foundation of this talk is about, is how to work with our lung qi. So every organ has qi, and every organ's qi oversees different parts of the body. And just a quick review on qi. Qi energy is our life force. Qi is not anything we could see, but in Chinese medicine, we view that the qi energy underlies all our body functions. So we know anatomy and physiology. We know how our heart beat, our stomachs digest, but it's the qi energy that underlies that and allows it to happen. So all the different qi energies work together, and if one aspect of qi is off, it affects everything. So when we do an intake, we look at the whole body, we look at the qi, and one other thing that's pertinent to this discussion is to looking at the elements, particularly wind, cold, damp, and heat. You know, both how they affect us from the outside in. Somebody may feel cold, be affected by wind, somebody may be affected by heat, but we also can have all those in our body. So before I get onto the diet, I want to talk to you a little bit about the functions of the lung qi. First of all, important to know, both in Chinese medicine and Western medicine, the lung is the most surface organ in our body. It's closest to the skin and it requires protection. So it's important that we protect our lungs from what we would say the elements. So an example of this is if we go outside, yesterday, for example, it was really windy. Our intuition tells us that it's important to cover up and protect ourselves so that wind doesn't blow against our body and cause illness to occur. Also, when it's cold and damp out, the same thing. We want to make sure that we take care of our body and protect ourselves, particularly in this spring weather where we're susceptible to cold and damp and wind, and how that affects us both from the outside in as well as our body. So it's really important to strengthen our lungs at this time inherently, even if we're not sick. We want to take care of our lungs. Starting with some deep breaths, as we did today, is a great way to do that. Also to go outside, take in some air. Just as a sidebar, later this week, Monica will be talking about Qigong exercises for our lungs, and next Monday, Karen will be talking about acupressure for our lungs. So the second thing is that as an organ, the lung opens to the skin. In Chinese medicine, every organ has an opening. So another thing is we want to make sure we protect our skin, which technically is the largest organ. Again, in this weather, protecting ourselves when we go outside, we want to make sure that we stay covered and that we don't expose our body to unnecessary elements. And the lung also opens to the nose. So obviously we want to make sure that, this idea of social distancing makes a lot of sense because we want to distance ourselves from breathing in pathogens of other people too. Also, the lung qi, which is that energy of the lung, regulates the downward flow of water in our body. That's one of the functions. So when we breathe in, that lung qi breathes in the air and then it's grasped by the kidney qi and it regulates our water and fluid pathways. So it's important that our body doesn't get congested. And I'm going to talk a little bit of this idea of dampness in a minute when it comes to our lungs. So we want to make sure that our body, that we are breathing in and we're keeping our lungs open so that we don't have fluid retention in our body. Also in Chinese medicine, every organ has an emotion. And it's really interesting that the emotion of the lung is grief and sadness. And I don't know about you, but I have been feeling a tremendous amount of grief and sadness throughout the last few weeks. And I'm sure everybody has. And it's really important to just take care of ourselves and know that that's a normal emotion to feel and that it's so appropriate now when we're really, the organ we want to take care of in our body is the lung, that grief and sadness is that emotion. So I wanted to just let you know that. So we're going to dive right into some of the different imbalances with the lung. And I just want to actually do a couple shout outs here to my staff, to Lenore, happy birthday, Lenore, my friend Carol, Julie Yolis, Wendy, hey Wendy Cutler, oh, hey, and Janice and Lori Long. It's so nice to have support. I think we all need to support each other, and I'm grateful. And Kathy McCrae, hey, Kathy McCrae. So I appreciate everybody being here. We're going to talk about the conditions of the lung. Okay, and hi Karen Sorrell too, that Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine looks at. And the most common one is what we would call lung qi deficiency. If you're out there and you are one of those people that have chronic lung issues, you may have asthma, you may have allergies that affect your breath, you may get sick a lot. That is, when you come into our office, we would say you have lung qi deficiency, which means that qi of the lung is weakened. So, that's one of the great benefits of acupuncture, and people come to us all the time for allergies and sinus and respiratory issues inherently because acupuncture works so effectively with that in strengthening our lung qi. Unfortunately, right now we can't actually do acupuncture, but hopefully we will be able to soon. So with this lung qi deficiency, you might be fatigued, you might not have a strong voice, you might have some shortness of breath. And we often think about, well, what do I eat to support our lung qi? Well, first of all, traditional Chinese medicine looks at the temperatures of the food. And if we assume that your body is coming from a place of weakness with qi deficiency, we want to strengthen. So we also want to strengthen our digestion. We have to rely on that whole body concept. So eating foods that preserve and nourish our digestion is most important. And with lung qi deficiency, eating a lot of cooked foods versus raw, even though our inclination is to go make a lot of salads, particularly now as spring is coming, it's better for us to eat more cooked foods. And foods that are easy to digest. So steaming your vegetables. Even if you're going to have a salad, I always say let it sit outside for a few minutes. Grains such as rice, oats, and barley are wonderful for nourishing our digestion. Some of the root vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, and yams are wonderful. And then Chinese herbs such as astragalus, ginseng, and medicinal mushrooms are wonderful. As a very quick sidebar, I have written a blog which explains all this. It's on our website. So if you're thinking, how am I going to remember all this? Just know that you can go there after. What do we want to avoid? Well, we want to avoid a lot of raw vegetables because they're very, very hard to digest. Fruits and salads, again, eating at room temperature or having a cup of hot tea or water at the time is wonderful. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about dairy products in our next diagnosis. But cold foods like ice cream, ice water, smoothies are really hard on the digestion. So please be careful if you have any lung issues. The next one is something we call phlegm, dampness in the lungs. How many of you have sinus issues? You have a phlegmy cough, you have drainage, and that's not even, related to the virus that we're experiencing. Many people do, particularly in this damp climate. That is because we have phlegm in our body. And once again, we go to diet for that. Acupuncture and herbs can help release and, help phlegm leave our body, but it's really the diet that makes a big difference. So phlegm and lung dampness would be a result of either, believe it or not, a weakened digestion, which we would think doesn't have anything to do with the lungs, but it does, or you're eating too many phlegm-building foods. Some of the symptoms we might have, again, is that phlegmy cough, shortness of breath, wheezing, or asthma accompanied by thick, sticky phlegm. All that is pretty common. We see that a lot in our clinic. And hi, Deanne. I'm so glad you signed in. And Emily, Deanne from Chicago. Great to see you. So be sure if you have phlegm, to avoid foods that cause phlegm. So foods that we can include, there's some wonderful herbs and spices that help kind of break up phlegm in our body. Garlic, fresh ginger, and fennel are all wonderful herbs that dispel phlegm. Not a commonly used vegetable, but watercress. I personally have never gone and sought it out, but I might now. Onions, radish, and mushrooms, again, are wonderful. Sprouts and seaweeds, and then a small amount of grains and legumes are wonderful. Eating simple, small meals and including foods that are easy to digest. Again, we have to go back to our digestion when we're talking about phlegm. So what do we avoid for phlegm? Well, the big one is dairy products. Most people are surprised to hear that, eliminating and not eating dairy will really positively affect our phlegm and mucus. Dairy is very mucus producing, particularly cow's dairy. Some people switch to goat's milk or, other means of getting dairy that aren't related to the cow's milk. Minimizing sugar and sweets. Sugar feeds phlegm and dampness. Sugar in our, eating a lot of sugar causes our digestion to slow down, which again fuels the dampness. And again, avoiding cold foods and foods that are hard to digest. I know we're all like going to the freezer and getting our comfort food, which I know for many of you are ice cream. Try to avoid that if you can. It's cold out, it's damp out, and we need to protect our lungs. So the next one on this spectrum, which is something as we might see more commonly if someone's sick, either sick with the flu, sick with an infection, or God forbid, sick with COVID-19, is when that phlegm turns hot. We call that heat congesting the lungs. We may feel like we're getting the flu. We may have a fever. We may have chills. We may have dry cough or shortness of breath. A sore throat, any of those. This is when that phlegm in our body has gotten stuck. And over time, much like a compost pile, that phlegm heats up and it gets hot and sticky. And, that may be someone who's coughing up phlegm. We may see, phlegm and discharge that have a color to them. And of course, nasal discharge. So, foods to avoid or limit are obviously foods that are heavy to digest. Well, the dairy goes without saying, but foods that are hard to digest, like a lot of meats and coffee and alcohol and beef, are really tough on our digestive health. So it's important during this time, to eat a lot of simple soups, like congee. And congee is something you can look up. It's spelled Congee. It's actually a soup that's more broth and not actually, it's more broth, less rice, but it's wonderful for kind of tonifying and nourishing our gut. Heat congesting the lung is something that responds again very well to acupuncture, because acupuncture moves our chi energy. So the last one in this little category is something that we would be on a spectrum. And this is something I think that we probably don't see often in this climate in Michigan. We may see this in the hospital if somebody's got this virus. And it's called dry heat affecting the lung. It's a more chronic condition resulting from infection and inflammation over a long, long period of time. We may see a dry, unproductive cough, which is actually one of the symptoms that they talk about. Periodic fever, thirsty, night sweats. It's like when that heat is just dried up, almost like if your body were a car and it was overheating. There just isn't a lot of fluid. So, how do we take care of that? Well, obviously, our goal is to clear out some of that heat and moisten the lungs. So we want to eat a lot of moistening foods. First of all, I don't know if you've heard of spirulina chlorella, hard to pronounce, or microalgae. All are those green powders and greens that you can either get in a powder form and get live. They're rich in chlorophyll and they moisten and increase fluids. I have my hairdresser, Laura, drinks chlorophyll every day. I tried it and I was like, whew. But I think if I were sick, I would definitely do it. Fruits such as pears and bananas and kiwis and oranges are all wonderful for moistening. Some vegetables, cooked of course, beans, carrots, cauliflower, chard, radish, white mushrooms are wonderful for moistening. And then you can make your own tea. Marshmallow root and slippery elm bark are both herbs, single herbs that I know at certain grocery stores they actually sell those teas that can help moisten. And then flax, and most of the seeds are lubricating. They're good for lubricating our intestines, which in turn lubricate our body. Foods to avoid, obviously hot and dry spices, such as chilies, horseradish, black pepper, cinnamon, and garlic. And basically limiting warming and congesting foods, such as I said before, the coffee, alcohol, beef, and lamb. I think in general, anytime we're working with our body, you need to really take care of your digestion when we're dealing with any organ system. We're talking about the lungs. Please keep in mind that traditional Chinese medicine dietary they're guidelines. They're not rules. Everybody's body's different. Everybody's body's going to respond differently. I quoted myself, in a strive for protection, it's more for perfection and protection. It's more important to work towards balance. Our clinic is here for you. We have telehealth calls at no cost. We will be doing Facebook Lives every Monday through Friday. Let me tell you what's coming up this week. We have Jennifer Pillow White, who is going to be speaking tomorrow on stimulating your immune system and circulation. Jennifer is a wonderful cranial sacral therapist. Monica will be speaking on Wednesday about Qigong for emotional and physical health. Julie Schindler-Cohen will be speaking on Thursday, enhancing your fertility preparedness during COVID-19. And Kat Barber on essential oils and acupressure for immune support. We are here for you. We love you. We miss you. I mean, we as a team are meeting every Monday morning with Zoom, and much like everybody, we're doing our best one day at a time. So I am certainly grateful for all of your attendance. If you look, Jordan on the comments posted the blog. Please don't hesitate to call me. I am happy to talk to you. Our office number is 248-737-7126. I'm enjoying this connection so much. I wish I could stay on all day because I'm going to hang up and be here at my computer, but I'm going to do that now. It seems like the right amount of time. Wishing you all a healthy day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.